Do you know how many times I've made game reviews? Once. Back in high school, an old friend and I made a review on a game long gone from Steam and overly smacked down for being trash. Starforge. It wasn't my best work, passable, but definitely needed a week or two on the floor of every department. And that can be said for every other review I've made with him. To think that the only thing stopping the past midnight nonsense we cobbled together and called a review was a change in Adobe Premiere's keyframe. Over the years, though, I've been wanting to make actual reviews. Big fan of the Seths, and the Mandalores, and most importantly, the Civ 11s. I have made a few scripts here and there, threw a few ideas around. I had an idea for reviewing free-to-play games for a while, and thank God I abandoned that idea. Can you imagine having to play every free game to a point where a review is even remotely considered knowledgeable? Ugh. Later on, I had an idea for a Wrath Aeon of Ruin review a while back, before it actually launched. I was making a lot of jokes in the script about beating Civvy to the punch, then I realized that I'm way too small of a channel to even remotely come close to beating him in views and that the jokes kinda sucked. Not that I give a damn if I do or don't anyway, nor should I. That's how competitors get put in the dirt early. They focus on their competition instead of their own work. Anyway, as a direct consequence of watching Civvy's stuff, I've got a few boom shoots here and there. Got your Dooms, your Quakes, a few of your builds, a New Blood here and there, scattered ones from all over the place, and probably half of them remastered by Night Dive. But there's one game that I bought that I can't remember finding, and that, one way or another, ended up in my library and on my list for a series I have on my Twitch channel called Boomer Shooter Sundays. Maybe if I just... Yeah! Oh yes, get styled on! And I hate to shill it now, but in case you haven't noticed the 5 billion uploads of sub-20-second clips I use for stream announcements, I'm usually active there now, because YouTube can go pound sand slightly more than Amazon. That being said, expect me to attempt simulcasting now that the Berlin Wall between the two is down. World War Zero, formerly Ironstorm, is a game, and I have played it. Entertaining enough for me to want to finish it, but weird and interesting enough that it inspired me to brush off Audacity and record some commentary about it. Now, I started playing PC games in the 2010s, meaning that I didn't experience any of the rapid expansion of FPS game technology of the 90s and early 2000s. My takes on what works and what doesn't in video games of the time is to be taken with a grain of salt. But I, like many people who spend too much time playing video games in their adolescence, am able to reliably recognize jank. And this game is full of it. Ironstorm is definitely Wolfenstein inspired, with Return to Castle Wolfenstein coming out the year before, but it does it in a worse looking and less fluid way. Call of Duty would launch the year after, and on top of looking better, would also play better, cementing it as the World War II shooter, and probably phasing this one out.
This delightful and cheery war began in August 1914. It is now March 1964, and believe it or not, it is still being waged.
The first thing you're going to notice on startup is that these subtitles aren't synced. I don't know if that's the fault of the remake or if this was an issue on the base game, but it gives you a pretty good idea of how things are going to be, and if that doesn't, the main menu will. The second thing you're going to notice on startup is that the music and sound is deafening. Okay. You didn't see any of that, but had you seen any of that, you would have seen the absolute ass fuck that was the resolution attempting to kill itself. Well, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe change this through a different way. Why do people have to blast the goddamn volume on their games so fucking loud? Which means we have to talk about the settings menu. I don't know if this is also a bug from the remake, but... Okay, pause. Let me do a quick history lesson. So, Ironstorm, the original 2002 release, was made by 4X Studio, a subsidiary of 4X Technologies. Technologies, as it was then, is gone, as of 2003, with Studio reopening as Kyloton in 2006, a French development studio that specializes in racing games these days. Of all fucking people, Rebellion made a PS2 port of this game, and a company called Reef Interactive made the remake, which is currently on Steam. The Steam version, for some reason, lists Rebellion as the developer and publisher, despite the fact that I can't find any information regarding their involvement with the remake at all, beyond it being listed on their website. I lack an original copy of the game, so I can't tell what problems are specific to which version and which company to call out for it, and I'd like to know, because this... Alright.
So let me show you exactly what the problem is here, and I apologize that my voice is very loud right now. That's my mouse. Mouse doesn't do anything. Here's the arrow keys. I am tapping the arrow keys.
Is fucking abysmal. I can't mess with these sliders using the mouse. I have to very quickly tap on the arrow keys to adjust the volume. I might as well be throwing dice for this because it's dumb luck if I get a volume I want. It's the same thing for the mouse sensitivity. I was afraid to show this off on camera for fear of not getting it back to where I wanted it to, and wouldn't you know, I ended up having to do this dance later anyway. But beyond that, the settings are fine. New game, and I'm going in on the hardest difficulty, Suicide. In the short time I played it live, it seemed pretty easy, so I wanted to bump up that challenge. And off to the races, just like that. The game does have cutscenes, but either most level transitions don't have them, or they're missing from the files. Either way, we're here, and it's time for war. And to do this, we've been given a shotgun. Quake approach. Good choice. If you want to know what's happening, so far as I can tell, this is still World War I. It has continued for half a century. Apparently at some point the October Revolution began, only the Bolsheviks were crushed by a Baron Ugenberg. This guy apparently goes mad, wanting to create a new Eurasian superstate using a newly formed Russian-Mongolian empire, of which he functions as a modern Genghis Khan. The Allies, of which the Americans are apparently separate from the rest, are busy holding a stalemate for the stock market and don't seem to have an interest in ending the war. Who would have thought? Beware the military-industrial complex. We're dropped in our base trench, being shelled. A lot. To the point where the AI milling about poorly and getting stuck on each other are dying. I get to pick up my second weapon from them, the machine pistol. We'll also pick up some cluster grenades from this broom closet over here, and the sniper rifle from the armory. God, that model was awful. I take a look around before I leave, and one poster catches my eye, because that's you. Apparently you're an American hero, and nobody ever told you. Oh well. I also take a look at one of the GIs here, and they've probably got the best face modeling of the game. Their uniforms look like old Union uniforms, with a flag violation on one of these armored shoulder pads, which do nothing to protect them. None of this seems very practical for trench warfare, and the French can tell you why. Past the bunker doors, and the first level is your traditional Great War brand trench warfare, complete with more shelling. This guy dies almost immediately, and a good portion of his friends do too, as they're battling it out over the top. I actually thought both sides had killed each other completely before it spawned more enemies. In trying to get a better look at one of the modern Genghis Khan horde, this guy pulls a grenade and tries to take me with him. I genuinely don't remember them doing that. Sometimes they also surrender in this injured state, but I ain't got an MP core with me, so... When I do get a better look later, I find these first initial enemies are vaguely dressed for success, emphasis on SS. German Stahlhelms, wide-brim officers' caps, red armbands. Maybe these guys are East German? Anyway, here's a field terminal. You'll find these scattered throughout levels. They're your save points, and also your source of enemy propaganda.
Die Linie Anton-Däniken ist nach misslungener Offensive des Westens gegen unsere Stellungen wieder Ruhe eingekehrt. Heute Abend lassen Wodka und wieder die Herzen der tapferen Soldaten höher schlagen.
This one has character dialogue and propaganda audio overlap. Beautiful. We're traveling through the lines trying to do something. One stop on the way is this church I'm supposed to raid, which is in this snowy landscape. Either the weather on the front is a weird series of freak storms, or the biomes are so screwed up that walking half a mile in any direction results in a new climate. Not that it matters, this ain't a modern game where the weather will mess up the accuracy of your guns or anything. Oh no. That's bad enough on its own. The spread on every single gun so far is terrible. The shotgun's probably the worst offender because it's basically the Doom 3 shotgun, with pellets randomly going everywhere and therefore doing random amounts of damage. There's no ADS, and the change stance button, functioning like it would in COD years later, doesn't seem to change it. I'm basically just spraying and hoping my shots land where I want them to in as short a time possible. This suppressed pistol I snagged earlier, shots go everywhere, and no, I'm not sure if that suppressor works for stealth, and I'm not trying either, for now. Even the sniper rifle, with its terrible animation, suffers from the same shit in modern games, where the rounds come out in a 45-degree cone from the barrel if you're not scoped in. And to top it all off, most, if not all of these guns have terrible, janky animations and look just as bad when they're not moving. At least they mostly sound good. There actually was a machine gun earlier, but I used these things more here. While these MGs rip through crowds, they're also blinding with the muzzle flash on both ends. And even worse, the muzzle flash is fucking clipping and screen tearing. I can't change the graphics mid-game, so I can't see if turning on VSync would help. Maybe it's the resolution, I don't know. Oh, and it also has a scope which has the same zoom as the sniper rifle, which would be more useful if the muzzle flash wasn't also completely obscuring it when firing. We get to the church finally, which has this neat little elevator inside. I know it's 2002 and these became a well-established mechanic after Quake, but I just found it a neat addition to a game in which elevators should be jank.
We'll come back to this one.
On the top is the sniper rifle of this one sniper chick I shot earlier. And this rocket turret that I used to annihilate some incoming squads and I think shoot down this helicopter, which is an enemy and will shoot at you. I think this one didn't shoot because I tried to stay underground. Last time, didn't do that so much. It's under the church that we get our first effective weapon, the assault rifle. It has better accuracy than most of the weapons we currently have, it has better damage, and best of all, the ammunition shared with the machine pistol. You'll never run out, guaranteed. At this point, I hadn't figured out how the weapon selecting had worked, but I had tried to keep the sniper rifle as my last weapon used, swapping between it and the assault rifle for a good portion of the game. Throughout the game, we occasionally get side objectives, one of which is killing this officer who also has an assault rifle. I miss a bunch of these through my playthrough, and I don't care because as far as I can tell, they don't give anything additional except for maybe score. We complete another by mowing down a horde of Mongolian SS troops before moving to the next area. Right before the level exit, we have this turret guarding the door. You're supposed to go through this vent here, which is poorly traversed due to how the map work of the whole thing's done. Nothing too bad, but I get snagged by geometry a time or two and need to go prone instead of crouching. Every game's gotta have a vent segment, I guess. If Gordon can do it, anyone can. Next level, and the enemies immediately get a hold of assault rifles themselves, which makes them considerably more dangerous. This is the first time I also get hit with a hallucinogen grenade, which inverts your controls, widens your FOV, and plays spooky music with this green camera overlay. I saw an AI get hit with this once, he got stun-locked and died, but I don't have that issue. Speaking of explosives, here are dogs with landmines that function as missiles, and that makes the enemies cruel and the situation sad. Let's ice the bastard who probably ordered this. He's up ahead.
prepare my replacement. So, they finally found someone stupid enough to try and kill me.
I don't recall this guy's name, and I don't care. His speech about James here is completely overshadowed by his mind dogs barking the whole way through. I quickly dispatch him and take his flamethrower, of which I am hesitant to use at first, but it does do some good damage. Better at short range than the fucking shotgun, anyway. I tend to stay back a bit because I'm following blood rules for burning enemies. These guys will ignite and run about before dying shortly thereafter, and I'm fairly certain they do damage if they run into you. But I ain't taking the chance to find out. We go through this bunker, whose alarm I trigger on purpose, and use a rocket launcher to down another helicopter and blow open this door. Once through, we clear out this POW camp with no POWs and very few guards, and head to the next level. Look at this tank first. This thing's massive. Looks like the TOG 2 lives on in the Khan's army. Level 4, Wolfenberg. We get out of the truck and are met with enemies that look more in theme with a Russian-Mongolian army. Ushankas and beige winter coats all around, complete with shotguns and obnoxiously placed snipers. We immediately get a grenade launcher, which is kinda redundant after we picked up this rocket launcher, but it's more explosives to lob at this mini-boss of a butcher here. This was also a side objective. The enemies here hit a little harder, since they've got 12 gauge. Why doesn't my shotgun work that effectively? Not that it matters, we're still on our AR nonsense. I make my way through, observe this nice bit of environmental destruction here, try to discover more by bombing these suspiciously lit panels over windows, but I think it's just a lighting glitch and possibly a texture glitch. I think some of these are supposed to be wooden boards, and instead they're using brick textures for some reason.
Don't move. Wait. According to my information, this area is heavily mined.
We get into this area that says it's mined, so I start skirting around, being cautious, because mines tend to be pretty bad for your health. This is emphasized by the destroyed tanks all around. However, these are just hallucinogen mines, which you can avoid decently easily and can still work if you get caught in the cloud, even if the clouds do linger a bit too long. So when we jump down into this section, we get a level transition with a cutscene, and we're finally told by this guy, Franz, what we're doing.
Cecile told me you're planning to destroy the plant. Good luck to you. There's something nasty going on in there, I'm sure. Well, you're going to have to get past the tanks they've posted in the square first. Some of my men will escort you as far as they can. Sorry, I can't do more. If you get the chance, the Rat House building in the square is used as a munitions depot by the Mongols. The entrance is strong and very heavily guarded. Find a way of getting in there, and we'd be very grateful.
Apparently the woman on the radio, Cecilia, wants us to go and destroy a plant of sorts. Franz also wants us to blow open an ammo depot at the Rathaus building. It's all on the way and heavily guarded, so off we go. We also get our first good look at our character, who looks like he's wearing a Civil War cavalry uniform of some sort. At first, I thought I'd need to move down this sewer to sneak past the tanks and whatnot, but figured I should go topside and look around. But the sewer's just back the way I came, and you'll see that later. Topside, there's a fight going on, and while I help out, I can't help but notice the NPCs like to get stuck in this doorway. This is a reoccurring problem that, when I try to get back downstairs to go down what I think is an alternate path past the tank, results in my first death.
Shoot your own men.
Stop shooting at Allied forces.
To be fair, I did commit friendly fire. And coincidentally, on respawning and once again from an ally, I get a hold of a new weapon. the semi-auto rifle. It works like the sniper rifle, but almost entirely better. Can still pierce multiple enemies, fires much faster, the animations are slightly better, and the only real complaint I have is that the reticle for this sniper scope is awful. But it beats having this bolt action. So, in that cutscene, I had heard heavily guarded, but missed the part about tanks. Emphasis on the S. Because when I went through this door, the armored slopes of what looked like a knockoff Tiger II had me a bit concerned. Rockets didn't seem like they were doing anything at first, but once it got stuck and I realized the turret couldn't rotate behind it, I just handled it like the tanks from Half-Life. Pop out and shoot. It goes down in 3 rockets, similarly enough. It was as I was approaching this now destroyed Tigre Dos that I noticed the second tank coming around the corner, this one with machine guns. This one looks like all the other tanks we've been encountering, but active. It also looks to be emitting hallucinogenic gas. I didn't verify by getting close, but if it is, it either means these tanks have nasty anti-infantry weaponry, or the tank crews and possibly all of the Mongol hordes here get high off of this stuff. I got a message earlier about a propaganda site, but I don't give a shit as I'm looking at the first tank, and as I am, I realize it's prompting me to operate the turret. Now that is pretty sick. Not aiming this thing, though. It's fucking atrocious, and not the first time I'm gonna say that about aiming a gun in this game. Inside's ammo. Go figure. Moving on. Now, this building here, a beer hall I'm led to believe, looked particularly interesting to explore, but as I'm doing so, a third tank rolls on through, and I have to play another game of peek-a-boom with it. While I'm fighting it and the doorframe collisions, I stumble upon the propaganda site and promptly blow its inhabitants away with a rocket. And as a side note, during that fight, this statue blew up, and I think these barrels from earlier were supposed to do that, and just didn't. Once all of that's done, we move to the next level. This one was very short, but I figure it's because they had 3 fucking tanks and a whole section of level destruction. The next level starts with a short sewer area, followed by a 4th tank fight, which is embarrassing because it mainly consists of me popping out of the basement to hit a small portion with a rocket. Tanks become a lot less scary when they get stuck or can't aim at you. It does leave me wondering how this game would go if I were stuck with 2 weapons, though, because of the 2 guns I mainly use throughout the playthrough. Once we're out on the street, I spend a bit of time trying to find a way around this gate, figuring that I can't just open it. I even kill this butcher guy in one building, but as it turns out, I quite literally can just waltz on through the front entrance by opening the gate from an unsecured guard tower. These guys are winning, or putting up enough of a fight to stall the war for half a century. I clear out the guard camp, and almost die to one using a rocket launcher toward the end of the fight. These guys are a lot tougher than their commie patriots. But the main reason is because I try to use the shotgun again, figuring that there's plentiful ammo, so might as well. It still sucks. We go down the path and have to use this mortar, which has the same problem as the tank turret, but worse, to blow up these 2 AA guns. While doing so, I think about how much better the mortars are in Far Cry. Jeez, this tank. And then move along. We come to the actual chemical plant, and my second death is here due to me trying this hallucinogenic grenade. As it turns out, the enemies are smart enough not to run into them, and even if they did, I think they might be immune to its effects. But they do stay away and shout over and over again. It's effectively area denial for the enemy AI. And with them gone, next level. The inside of the chemical plant. It's bigger than I expected, which prompts me to re-equip my sniper rifle in my offhand slot, which I had just figured out at this point how it worked. Basically, instead of having the weapons on numbers like every other shooter with a large loadout, this game preserves its 2-weapon slot system, but has you cycle through the weapons on whatever slot is available. So you'd select the weapon you want, press Q, and then select the second weapon you want. Very intuitive, can see why everyone else copied it. You wander around the factory floor, blowing up barrels and killing enemies who occasionally flood in from entrances around the factory floor. The kicker is at the end of this level, where I thought the game had broken and a button wasn't appearing on this elevator. Tried clearing out the place, no change. There is an entrance on top, but then this happens. What the fuck? You'd think it'd just knock you out, but this is actually a bug with the hardest skill. It'll usually just chip away half of your health, but suicide kills you. Who would have guessed? I tried shooting the elevator's brakes or grenading the door, neither of which seemed to do anything. As it turns out, the way to beat this bug is with another bug. Take a look at this horse shit. Amazing. I drop back down and continue as it's supposed to, knocking you out and getting you captured. Always gotta happen once in a World War game. Almost immediately we escape our captors, and surprisingly I escape without issue, save for this guard who blocks my path and I just soak his bullets and push him aside. Guess I know why James Anderson's a US legend. Once past him, we enter a kennel, grab a shotgun, somehow kill this guard and grab his rifle, somehow kill this guard and grab his flamethrower, and now we're sufficiently armed again. In that fight, I opened the dog cages, thinking they'd attack the guards, but why the fuck would they? They're trained by the Mongols. Thankfully, I can close them again before moving on. I'm moving down these corridors of this research base, and I keep getting side objectives. These ones actually lead to cool set pieces because I blow open this wall to a missile testing room to grab this detonator for the missiles. Further on, I torch a bunch of scientists who are operating this obscenely large surgery room. And while all that's well and good, going back is the problem. See, I do accidentally complete this level, but with absolutely no health remaining and less ammunition than I wanted. So I load back to go do it again, but better. This results in an enormous amount of deaths, mostly due to these 3 guys in the now destroyed missile testing bay. Come out of it with a ton more ammunition and a lot more health than I ended with in the first time. I go to save because I plan to take a more direct approach to this train station you see from the ending vent, and when I go to do so, my progress is depleted by 1%. Huh. Either way, the main door is blocked, so through the vents and into the next level I go. The next level starts in the storeroom we left off in. Grabbing some supplies from it, notably a grenade launcher and a sniper rifle, the latter much needed due to its headshot capability, makes dealing with the rocket troops easier. 2 ways to go. Left goes nowhere important, the right goes to this missile silo. I'm supposed to destroy this silo, actually, and I don't realize how easy this game makes it, because all it takes is accidentally shooting this glowing pipe to set off the whole place. Escaping the blast isn't hard. I actually get to the end with minutes to spare. It's the shaking camera and finding a way onto this train that's hard. I actually end up dying whilst trying to go back a save to see what I did wrong. Turns out you use this gantry to jump aboard instead of, I don't know, a catwalk or something. Anyway. So now we're on this train that at Terminal told us was nigh impenetrable. We'll see about that. Level starts with us being shot at by escort helicopters, one of which consistently nails half of my health with a rocket through the door, here, using splash damage. Cool. So, I think I discover a stealth system here, but I rarely use it. I shoot this guy a bunch with the pistol, and his buddy not only doesn't notice, but also doesn't notice when I empty a magazine and a half into him. The guy in the booth's actually one of the new elite soldiers. He has a semi-auto rifle. We go upstairs and kill this guard, with 2 pistol magazines, and then I decide to use this rocket turret to shoot down both helicopters outside. Ignore the background looping to save on time and sanity, please. Once that's done, I head down through a cargo elevator, immediately get spotted by a guard staring directly at the elevator, and his buddy turns on the turrets which mow me down. And that's what leads me to the issue of the stealth system in this game. See, as far as I can tell, it's based off of mostly sight and a little of sound. If you're not crouched, they'll instantly know where you are, and if you're seen, they'll instantly aggro. It's very rudimentary, and since this guy's staring at the lift and doesn't patrol, he sounds the alarm instantly. Or, more accurately, his buddy does. It's at this point that stealth goes out the window for me, since it's all locally tied to alarm buttons anyway, not the whole level. The train is a 2-part level, the first one being getting to the commander's car at the front of the train. Tight corridor sections with these alarm-triggered turrets and the slow trickle of more elite units, like this guy who has the auto RPG. This thing would be better if it did more damage, because it was at this point I realized better weapons replace the older ones. Your rocket launcher from earlier, slow as it was, is done now, even though it had a much better ammunition efficiency for stuff you'd actually use rockets on. Now it takes 2 hits to destroy turrets instead of 1. This will become a problem later down the line, but at least it still kills enemies reliably. We continue on through the train, automatically complete this objective, and then keep moving until we hit this left hook of a section. A whole fucking church car. Now, being a Catholic, I know this ain't one of those or a Russian Orthodox clergy, because neither of those sects of Christianity have the priest strapping an automatic rocket launcher. The way ahead's blocked by rubble, so we have to head onto the train's roof to cross onto the next section. I didn't use it much, but the scopes do have a zoom function, which lets me shoot this MG gunner at the other end of the train here. We entered the next level by crashing through the roof of this hot tub room. Big mistake not to armor your hot tub room. As we're cruising through the officer's car, we snagged this replacement for the assault rifle from another elite, the Consortium gun. I thought Consortium was some weird sci-fi material the gun's made out of. It's not, and we'll get to that later. What's important is that it is a direct upgrade. Faster fire rate, bigger magazine, and a scope which I thought made it laser accurate, but it might make it a little more accurate. Jury's still out. This terminal tells us about a case, which is our objective here.
Ist ein Sicherheitskästchen, mit dem man sensibles Material bis ins Zentrum der Schlacht befördert.
It looks like the medical boxes I've been breaking open for health, but it's not. We get to it by killing the commander and finding 2 switches throughout the train. We immediately find the second one in the commander's quarters, and the first one was all the way at the start of the level. With the switches hit, we head to this door toward the front of the train, kill the remaining guards behind it. And open the safety cage for the case, of which the switch is hidden behind one of the MG nests here. Once we got it, it's level completed. The next level is the end of the line. Ugenberg's base, apparently. Cecilia tells us to ice the dude if we get the chance, but first we have to fight our way through the platform, which has many men and 2 tanks. It is here that we see the fundamental problem with the auto RPG. They do not work against armor. See, tanks take 8 auto RPG rockets to bring down instead of the regular 3 rockets. I find ammunition for the auto RPG sometimes to be scarce, which presents a problem when I have to expend so much to bring down these things. Mercifully, grenades can substitute. But replacing weapons would be a lot better if I got something to replace the crappier weapons like the shotgun and the pistol. Once I clear the area, I do some exploring around and some backtracking, and in going through what I thought was the main entrance, I find the minigun. It doesn't replace the Consortium gun, and it is fuck ugly, with no way to preemptively spin it up, but it comes in clutch later. For now, we proceed. Earlier these guys shut the door on me, thought it was the developers pulling a fast one for exploring side rooms. It's actually the way you're supposed to go, but you go around through vents, as shown here. Before I move on, I try to get a good look at the last of the elites. This heavily armored Wolfenstein looking fuck here. Only he pulls a grenade and kills his buddy in the process of trying to kill me. Is it just me, or is it becoming a trend that these numbnuts kill themselves before I get a good look at them? As soon as we're past this area, the bunkers turn into ruins? I guess we gotta have one section of ruins in a World War game too. Return to Castle Wolfenstein still does it better though. I believe this is under the Reichstag, if an earlier terminal is to be believed. We finally get a glimpse at Ugenberg, and while it's not a good glimpse, he looks a bit like if the Third Reich decided that Count Dooku was fit for the role instead of the angry mustache model we ended up with. Later on, I will correct this assessment, but that's what I initially wrote in my notes. Comes off as pretentious, though. From ruins to Reichstag proper, we're now moving through the building to find Ugenberg's magnetic key for this case. I don't even remember what's in the box anymore, maybe something round? Frankly, I don't give a shit, as I'm more interested in looking at this auto-RPG elite, who looks like a clanner from Battletech. We move through to the building's front, where it tells me to destroy these tanks, but I don't have any auto-RPG ammo. I try a grenade, to which this tank gives me a fright of turning a full 360 degrees around to one-shot me. He doesn't get the chance again, because this time I decide to grenade them from this tower over here. As it would turn out, a hidden room that I uncovered by shooting some explosive barrels earlier had a rocket turret aimed at the tanks, so I just wasted my grenades. It is at this point that I start looking for things like this because they're a lot more common in this level than anywhere else, and makes me wonder why they didn't do it more. At some point I'm told to kill a commander and accidentally kill him because he's dressed in what I like to call Mongol heavy armor. Never mind that, though, because I get a little lost in this segment, because it wants you to jump out of this window. And beyond that window is a decently difficult fight because it's all around the corner and uses most of my grenades again. Gas and hallucinogen grenades once again prove their uselessness, as they do very little to help. Next level, back inside the Reichstag. We mow down a horde with our minigun before I realize there's a new gimmick to this level. Turret consoles. They work a lot like mounted MGs, but without the risk of getting shot. Unfortunately, taking control of them doesn't seem to stop the alarms from making them shoot at you, so I make a habit of destroying them after clearing an area. They also still screen tear, but I can look past all of that as it makes some of the harder fights in the game ridiculously trivial. This terminal shows the last newsreel being shown. It talks about Commando's rating, but I'm the only one in here, so far as I know.
Пока мы передаем эту информацию, спецподразделения штурмуют Генштаб и пытаются захватить нашу студию. У нас нет никаких известий от барона Угенберга. Мы не знаем, где находится его...
She gets sacked, and we never hear another news report again. We end up entering said newsroom only to find the reporter missing and Mongol heavies looking around. I thought our commandos got her. So where are they? Well... So, remember the Consortium gun? It's the standard issue for these guys, the Consortium. They're a shadow cabal that's been perpetuating the war in order to make a profit. Ugenberg's weapons development, that, as I understand, we've been destroying, was stopped by the Consortium to stop him from ending the war as the victor. You also only learn about them right now, so far as I know.
Take me for an idiot, Mitchell. I know you're the one who's trying to stop production of my new weapon, and all on the orders of your precious consortium.
You're right, my dear Baron. I put my employer's interests first. We want a war that'll last, high profits, and a high-yield market. And we know exactly what would have happened if we'd let you develop your new toys. No more fighting, no one left to fight, and you, the master of a world gone up in smoke.
You consortium scum are worse than these Bolsheviks I just crushed. You corrupt everything you touch. You dare even to sully the greatness of my destiny.
Without our financial support and our political weight, your weak empire would have long ago been in the trash heap of history.
Wait, I can still build my legend for the ages to come.
I get a better look at the Baron in this cutscene, so let me retract my former statement about his appearance. He might actually give the angry Austrian painter a run for his money in terms of stashes. He looks like if the Emperor from Mulan shaved his beard and was raised in Imperial Germany. Not that it matters much, because...
Stretch out my hand to the enemy tomorrow and sign an honorable peace agreement. I can be the one who brought hope to millions of homes.
You misunderstand me, Roman. The Consortium's interests require that this war should continue, with or without you. The Baron is dead. It's a wonder such an old dreamer lived so long in these modern, pragmatic times.
So everything's sorted, Colonel.
Oh, yes. You can launch Operation Legacy, and have those samples taken to my plane. We're leaving immediately.
Yes, sir. And what about the body of the Baron, sir?
Let him push up daisies. Oh, and don't forget to get his magnetic key off him.
Yes, sir. Code Grade! Launch Legacy! Code Grade!
And I need that key, so I guess we're going after the Colonel. Not that it takes too long to catch up. We get to fight these new enemies. I call them Consortium Commandos. They're not much different from the Mongol elites, so far as I can tell. We get to the next level through a secret door behind this bookcase in this room with a dead woman in it. Is this the reporter or some other chick I never saw elsewhere? Not gonna bother asking what happened, though. The next level starts with one of the tougher fights in the game, though I'm ready for it. For some reason, the Reichstag has a giant statue of Buddha in the center, which is the primary religion of Mongolia, and apparently outshone the Christian sects in Germany, Russia, and the rest of Eastern Europe? Not important. Here's the last good fight of the game. Taking this elevator triggers a cutscene. Funny how this game suddenly can do cutscenes in the last 10 minutes of the game. It can also do bosses, but I can see why it doesn't. For our big bad, we get this super soldat jumping out of a helicopter. It might be implied this is the Colonel? Not sure, but whoever it is, they're dealt with quite easily because all it requires is circle strafing. This is on hard, by the way. He dies, and we get on a chopper to fly home. There's a pain sound at the end. I don't know if that means we get capped in the helicopter, or if that's the game bugging out again. After all, that shit in the elevator happened. But that was Ironstorm / World War Zero. It's $5 on Steam, has problems with resolution at times, and the accuracy can make this game a slog. But it never crashed on me, and didn't take up much of my time either, with about 6.5 hours of gameplay. Personally, I'd rather just play Return to Castle Wolfenstein or the OG Call of Duty, but this isn't the worst, just far from the best. Solid 5 out of 10, minus half a point for the sniper rifle and another for the elevator. Making this video was a process, but it was a fun process. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. I'll find another game to work with. I have an idea, but I'd rather not if I can find something else. I'm Admiral Y11, signing off. Thanks for watching. God bless.